The time has come to get the Bonanza out to the field. Now, what have I done since the last update last week? Well, quite a few things. I did look inside the flap, and there was one of the keepers, the plastic keepers. I forgot to replace it apparently when I reinstalled the servo. So yeah, the 90-degree bend in the push rod had just come loose from the servo. So had one of those in my stash of Dubro parts, and that was good to go. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, the engine fully ready to go. Charged up the battery. Cleaned the airplane. Wiped it down with some degreaser, because you never know what's going to be on there. I don't like to go in full with Windex, because the ammonia is not necessarily going to take off oils as well, more like smear them around. So yeah, I like to do a degreaser first and then use Windex to sort of make things really shine. So cleaned up the model, made sure everything was lubricated again. I added some lube to the main landing gear and worked them a couple of times. Added the cowl. So the cowl had to go back on, and I had to, because of the change in carburetor, the adjustment needle for the carburetor, different position. So different carb makes sense. So I had to open that hole a little bit more. Added 4 ounces of nose weight. Only that's it. That's all I took for this particular model, and that was dry with the nose gear up. And the center of gravity was like 1 centimeter aft of the recommended center of gravity point. So not bad at all. And I figured, well, once I get this thing fueled up, it'll be fine. And so the only thing left to do is to take it out to the field. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll do some voiceover and just explain things as I go. That way you can hear the engine and everything too. And you can sort of experience this with me, and I can guide you through what's going through my head, because sometimes it's really hard to hear things in the recording, and that way you get a better picture of what's going on. All right, so the first thing you're going to see me do here is check and make sure that the engine is running well. We're going to get some heat into it and take the glow igniter off. All right, so it's off, and now we're going to do a control check and let more heat get into the engine, let it warm up. And now I'm going to tune the carburetor a little bit more. Make sure it's running right. You can hear the tone of the engine change slightly, so I'm tuning this by ear based on my musical background, right? Higher RPM, and then once it plateaus, I want to richen it a little bit more. And then after that, I check the transition of the carburetor from low to high, because really all I'm doing is tuning the high-speed needle. So the plan here is to just taxi out and do a whole bunch of taxi tests. Taxi test, make sure things get bumped around and make sure that things are going to stay secure, like the landing gear, making sure that they're staying down and locked.
Ah, the smell of glow fuel.
Indeed, Ron. The smell of glow fuel is amazing. But also we're checking to make sure that the airplane is tracking. So I've got my steering servo on a dedicated channel, so I can tune that individually if I need, rather than tune it mechanically. If it were mechanical, then you could take it back to the bench and change things a little bit mechanically. That's what these ground tests are for. Make sure everything's as dialed in as possible, because when you're landing at high speed, you don't want it wandering, and when you're taking off, you don't want it wandering where you don't want it. So the other thing you want to check for is that the prop is not going to strike the ground or clip grass. clipping grass can send little bits of grass up into your carburetor and get into your engine. Not a good thing. So that's another thing I'm checking out here. Because I have an Oleo, I want to make sure that the bouncing around isn't going to hit the grass. Now on that run, I noticed that the airplane was not getting very light on the sticks, and that's more of like a telling what it does when you touch the elevator a little bit. So here you can see I just lowered my flaps to half, and I want to see what the airplane is going to feel like when I do a run down the runway as well. So let's see what this does. Well, that wasn't really fully expected. Okay, so we're away. Notice the bouncing on the runway. That's sort of what happens sometimes when you go to try to do maidens at my field, is that the airplane gets light and you can't really feel it all the way, but then you go to try and do a high-speed run and it just takes off for you because of the bounciness. So I'm doing a couple of circuits here, just making sure that trims are good. No trims were required. Keeping the landing gear down, because again, I don't know how the engine is going to behave in flight. It could overheat in the cowl. I don't know. So keeping the gear down is a good thing. So it's one less thing that I have to think about. I've got lots of height in case of a dead stick or any other issue like that. And so really I'm just trying to feel the airplane out and see how it behaves. Feeling comfortable enough with the airplane, I'm going to pull the gear up here and keep flying around. There's a slight shift in the center of gravity, which I kind of expected given that the nose gear retracts rearward. And she becomes very light on the sticks, but still quite sensitive, but not overly sensitive. This is just a very smooth flying airplane. Notice that it's not fast. It's not super, super fast, which I think is great. It almost forces me to fly the airplane in a very realistic way and not really jam on the sticks or be super nervous about things. I think something that I've learned as I've gotten older and maybe wiser in the hobby is that faster is not always the better option. For scale airplanes, I find that something middle of the road is nice. Like, you want to make sure that the airplane can get out of some sticky situations and you want the power there available on tap, but you don't necessarily want to fly it at that speed all the time. All right, that was my call for a stall test, so I'm really high, and I'm going to slowly ease back the throttle. The airplane wants to nose up when I ease back throttle, so I'm down at idle, and I'm pulling back, and then it's a violent turn in, get speed, slowly apply throttle, and pull out. Pretty uneventful stall test. Airplane was moving pretty slow, so it gives me a good comfort level for landing, but that's one of the absolute most critical tests you can do on a maiden flight. So we've got a gear down dirty pass, we got 3 in the green, looking good. So now we're going to apply flaps, not half flap, we're going to go with full flap just to make sure that we stay nice and stable and try to land this thing. Nice landing. Very happy with that. Very well behaved. I can't really complain much about this. This has been a really fun maiden, unexpected, but fun. But that's the way it goes sometimes. You have to be ready for these things to happen. All right, so back from the field. So let's take in. Um, Great, super. We have a flyer. Really was not fully expecting that. I expected it to be a little bit light, but as you can see, my field, bumpy. And this is with Oleo struts, okay? That thing was jittering all over the place. I tell you guys over and over again, my field is rough on landing gear, and I hope you get a better picture of that. It's no joke. And even though we roll it a lot, we have a roller at the field, it's still bumpy. So that being said, thanks so much for following along. You guys know that these projects are super fun for me. So at this point, the Bonanza is going to get kind of pushed aside. I will go ahead and give you guys an update, which will probably be on the lighting system that I put inside here. So as I have time throughout the winter, I need a distraction from other projects that I've got coming, that's what's going to be on the menu. Otherwise, it's gonna be a regular flyer that I feel it gets me that glow fix. There's nothing like that smell of glow fuel. It's awesome. Make sure you're heading on over to dubro.com and getting the stuff that you need. Josh 10 at checkout. All right, get yourself 10% off and stock up for the winter build season. It's arriving in full force, You guys know that I'm building all the time, but for you, it's coming. It's coming hard. So I also want to, as a last note on this video, make sure you guys are subscribing to the Dubro Facebook page and the YouTube channel, because we've got a new masterclass coming, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be more restoration stuff like this, and I've got a great subject, some great new techniques, and we're going to be doing another engine, and it's pretty gummed up. It's going to be fun. So tune in, guys. Thank you again so much for watching. I know this is a small channel. There are lots of other RC channels out there, but I'm glad that you stopped by for a little bit of education and entertainment as you go through your hobby experiences. So take care and keep on working on those flying works of art.